The discovery of an ancient mosque site in northern Bangladesh has sparked significant discussion among historians and archaeologists about the early spread of Islam in South Asia. In a remote village in the Rangpur region, remains of what may be an extremely early Islamic structure were uncovered, leading some researchers to suggest that it could potentially be the oldest mosque in the entire South Asian region. If verified, the discovery would reshape our understanding of when and how Islam first reached Bengal and the wider Indian subcontinent.
It's in this remote village of Ramjapur in northern Bangladesh that Tim Steels, a British amateur archaeologist, found this mosque. In it is a monumental treasure of Islamic history, the remains of a mosque believed to be built in the 7th century.
If we could prove this, it would make it the earliest mosque in South Asia, because there is said to be a mosque from the lifetime of the Holy Prophet in Kerala and said to be one in China, but there's no archaeological evidence to support either of those claims. What we have here is a mosque that isn't claimed, but actually has evidence that dates it to within reach of the lifetime of the Holy Prophet.
The ancient mosque was discovered in a rural area of northern Bangladesh when villagers came across buried artifacts and architectural remains beneath the soil. The site drew attention after locals uncovered a stone bearing Quranic inscriptions, along with fragments of bricks and other materials that appeared to be part of an early Islamic structure. An amateur archaeologist and local researchers began examining the site and concluded that the ruins likely belonged to a mosque that had been buried for centuries. Early investigation suggested the structure might date back as far as the 7th century, potentially placing it only a few decades after the death of the Prophet Muhammad. If these early estimates prove correct, the mosque would predate many well-known Islamic monuments in South Asia. To understand why this finding is so remarkable, it is important to consider the timeline of Islamic architecture in South Asia. Most surviving mosques in Bangladesh date to the Sultanate or Mughal periods, many centuries after Islam first arrived. Because most existing structures date from the medieval period, historians long assumed that large-scale mosque construction in Bengal began only after Muslim political rule was established. However, if the Rangpur site truly dates to the 7th century, it would indicate that Muslim communities existed in Bengal hundreds of years before the establishment of Islamic kingdoms in the region. Several pieces of evidence have led researchers to consider the possibility that the mosque could be extremely ancient.
Up until now, historians believed Islam came to the region in the 12th century. The remains would prove that Muslims were in South Asia just a few years after the death of the Prophet Muhammad.
These rivers were the highways of the Old World. Recent archaeological research suggests that Arab traders used Bangladeshi waterways to sail up to China for trade, but also to spread the word of Islam.
One of the most intriguing finds at the site was a stone slab with Arabic Quranic script carved into it. Such inscriptions were commonly used in early mosques to mark religious buildings or commemorate their construction. The style of script and the weathering of the stone may provide clues about the time period in which it was created. Epigraphic analysis, the study of inscriptions, can sometimes date a structure within a relatively narrow historical window, particularly when early Arabic calligraphy styles are present. Archaeologists have also examined the brick composition and construction techniques used in the remains of the building. Early Islamic structures often use specific types of bricks and mortar depending on the region.
Villagers stumbled on this site when building a mosque. They started digging and found ancient artifacts, including a stone with Quranic scripture. The locals say authorities took them all away.
They looted the site, took anything they saw of value. We never heard from them again.
We went to the local museum to look for the artifacts, but authorities would not let us in. A simple search on the internet may explain why. Ancient artifacts from the museum are being sold online, like these bronzes we found, sold by a broker in California for hundreds of dollars. Source: Bangladesh. We called the culture minister and made repeated requests for an interview to find out if national treasures are being sold off, but he was unable to meet us or even give a statement.
Simple fact is, that kind of art is worth a lot of money on the international market. It must be an enormous temptation in a country where a lot of people are low paid and where there's a lot of poverty.
One of the most important questions raised by the discovery is how a mosque could have been built in Bengal so soon after the rise of Islam. Historical evidence suggests several possible explanations. Long before the arrival of Muslim armies in the Indian subcontinent, Arab merchants maintained extensive trade networks across the Indian Ocean. Ports along the Bay of Bengal were connected to trading routes that linked Arabia, East Africa, India, China, and Southeast Asia. Arab traders visited the Bengal Delta to trade spices, textiles, and precious goods. Many historians believe these merchants also introduced Islam to coastal communities centuries before Muslim political expansion into the region. The existence of an early mosque would imply the presence of a small Muslim community. Such communities could have included Arab traders, sailors, Sufi travellers, and local converts. Islam historically spread through trade networks in many regions, including Southeast Asia and East Africa. The same process may have occurred in Bengal. Rather than arriving through conquest, Islam may have gradually spread through cultural and economic contact. The geography of Bengal also makes early contact with Muslim traders highly plausible. The Ganges-Brahmaputra Delta is one of the largest river systems in the world and historically served as a major hub of maritime trade. Ships travelling from the Arabian Peninsula to Southeast Asia frequently pass through the Bay of Bengal. If future research confirms the early date of the Rangpur Mosque, the implications would be profound. First, it would suggest that Islam reached Bengal within decades of its emergence in Arabia, much earlier than previously believed. Second, it would highlight the crucial role of trade networks in spreading Islam rather than military conquest. Third, it would demonstrate that Bengal was already integrated into global Islamic networks during the earlier centuries of Islamic history. This would align with broader historical patterns showing how Muslim merchants and travellers helped spread Islam across the Indian Ocean.
Steels is convinced there are more historical treasures here hidden beneath the earth. The Asian Development Bank has given the Bangladeshi government a $12 million grant to promote archaeological sites. The muddy grounds here are ideal for excavations. But these villagers don't trust the authorities anymore. All they want is to find out how long these stones have been around, and the remains of the mosque protected. Because for them, this is a sacred site.
The discovery of the ancient mosque in northern Bangladesh represents one of the most intriguing archaeological findings related to the early spread of Islam in South Asia. Initial evidence, including Quranic inscriptions, early brick structures, and the orientation of the building suggests that the site could represent a very early Islamic place of worship. While further excavation and scientific dating are necessary to confirm the age of the structure, historians recognise that the discovery could significantly alter our understanding of Islamic history in the Bengal region. If the mosque does indeed date back to the 7th century, it would provide remarkable evidence that Islam reached Bengal through early trade networks shortly after its emergence in Arabia. The Rangpur Mosque therefore stands as a powerful reminder that the history of Islam in South Asia may be far older and more complex than previously believed.